Hello and welcome back to the Burn KC ScorchCast. My name is Alex Blackburn, your humble host for the Burn KC Sports Talk. I also write the Burn KC Sports Talk. In fact, I do everything for the Burn KC Sports Talk. It's kind of a one-man job. It's pretty fun, but also pretty taxing at the same time. But I do it because, I just love KC Sports so much. Been a long time since I last released one of these, so my apologies for the delay. Had some personal things come up, but we are here now, doing it. We're here. Let's go. We've got a lot to talk about today. Got some college basketball news. We got some recruiting news, some offseason news. KU was in Puerto Rico for some exhibition games, so we're going to be talking about that. Got some college football predictions as well as some award watch news and a little bit of other college football news too, but not like anything super duper significant. We got some Royals news, some Chiefs news. Surprisingly, no Sporting Kansas City news. They've been knocked out of the League Cup, but I don't think MLS play has resumed yet for them, so kind of waiting to hear back and see what happened with them, or what's going to be happening with them. Obviously, they are still slightly in the playoff race after the League Cup performance, though. It's not looking too great. But we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll go on another run. But do have a little bit of current and Blues news to cap off the show. But first, we got to start the show. So let's get started with some college basketball news. Coming at you. All right, first things first, some college basketball news. KU went to Puerto Rico to kick off their exhibition. I guess their season? I don't really know how to phrase it. Obviously, we're in August now, so it kind of doesn't make sense to say, oh, yeah, KU's kicked off their season. This is kind of just exhibition play over in the great territory of Puerto Rico. They went over there to play 3 games, one against the Puerto Rico Selects side, and then 2 against the Bahamas national team, which, by the way, includes players like Klay Thompson, Eric Gordon, and Buddy Hield. And overall, they did pretty well. They went 2-1. They kind of lost that third game in kind of a fashion. They had the lead for about 3 quarters and then kind of just lost it. But I mean, that's against NBA players. When you're losing to NBA players by 6 points, you're a dang good college team. I'll say that right now. Just the way that they looked like they are ready to make a run at that national title this coming season. They look very, very good. They look like they have a ton of talent. Guys that are returning from that roster look even better than they did last year, like DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Kevin McCullough. All just look really, really good against, again, NBA caliber talent. So when you're just, and not only that, it looks like this is a team. They're playing team basketball. They're passing the ball really, really well. I know that was a big worry because everybody was just like, "Oh, they're just gonna give it to Hunter Dickinson and let him work." No, this is a very balanced scoring team. This is a team that shares the ball. This is a very Bill Self team, and this is a team that has every shot to win the national title. So, good looks from KU's part. Some more good looks happening this week when KU got commitments from Australian national Johnny Furphy, who played in the Australian National League as a 17 and 18-year-old and looks just stellar. I mean, he looks like a guy that could easily compete at the college basketball level in the United States. And then their last commitment actually came just yesterday. Flory Bundiga, the number 5 ranked player in the nation and the number 1 ranked center in the nation for the 2024 class, committed to KU. And that's a guy that they really, really wanted. So that's their Hunter Dickinson replacement. That's a guy that once Dickinson does leave, he can just slot himself right in, and it's like Dickinson really never even left. Obviously, there's going to take some time to develop, but um, I mean, getting the number 5 ranked player in the nation and getting the number 1 ranked big in the nation is something that was sorely, sorely missed by this KU program last year and the year before that. Even when they won the national championship. I mean, David McCormick was great, but he wasn't this dominant big that KU is so used to. And having a dominant big makes so much difference for KU. Um, when you don't have, as much guard talent as you had in years past, like with that national championship team. In not saying KU's not going to have any guard talent, they have plenty of guard talent, which is why they're probably going to be preseason number 1. They're probably the favorite to win the national championship this year. Um, it's because they're just an all around good team. Um, Not me being a KU homer. What? But let's talk about the other side of the border, the Missouri Tigers, because they've been having some news as well. Um, the Tigers are set to play at the T-Mobile Center next year against Seton Hall. This is, I believe, the first time ever that aside from like the KUMU charity game and everything like that, I think this is like the first time that that Missouri has played a regular season game at the T-Mobile Center, um, which is odd because the T-Mobile Center is in Missouri, and KU has played there multiple times. I get it. Columbia's 3 hours away from Kansas City, but a little shorter than that. But it just kind of seems ridiculous that Missouri has never played at the T-Mobile Center other than that charity game that they played against KU. Um, and Seton Hall gonna be a good matchup. Seton Hall has had a pretty good basketball team in years past. Still does have a pretty good basketball team that will match up well with Missouri. So I think that'll be a really good game, and I'm excited to watch that one. Other than that, though, Marcus Allen, a 4-star guard, committed to excuse me, committed to MU this past week, I believe. I think he committed this past week. And Mizzou is finally getting some good talent in their recruitment. So expect that to continue, especially if Missouri keeps going how they're going um, with how good they've been. So big ups to Missouri basketball. This seems like it's going to be a welcome change. And again, as a KU homer, you want to see your rivals be good because that's what makes rivalries fun. It's no fun just beating up on the guy year in and year out. I'm excited for the game in Lawrence this year. It's going to be a great time. Missouri's going to learn a lot. Has learned a lot of lessons since the last time they played Kansas. So it should be a good matchup, and Lawrence is going to be Allen is going to be loud. So I hope I can make it out to that game. I really do. Fingers crossed. But we're done talking about college basketball because it's not in season. I'll tell you what is almost in season, though. It's about 2 weeks away, actually. And that's college football season. So let's get into that. Okay, onward to some college football news and predictions and the preseason award watch list. First, starting with just a teensy weensy bit of news. Um, KU had to kick off a walk-on offensive lineman for allegedly making making criminal threats to the Anderson family football complex. Joe Kraus allegedly texted, I believe it was Lawrence police, um, saying that there was a bomb at the Anderson family football complex, which prompted a police response and eventually his arrest. So he had a court date, I believe it was August 9th, was when he had his court date. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's been since suspended, kicked off the football team, not only the football team, but the campus in general. He is no longer enrolled as a student. He is officially no longer a Jayhawk because he decided to make a dumb joke, allegedly. That's what happened, at least. He made a joke about what he did in the bathroom, which, really? You're, what, 20 years old, still making middle school jokes? And it's cost you your career now, buddy. I bet his parents are just super, super excited, super, super proud. Um, Goodness gracious, um, rough. But anyway, going into some predictions after that little piece of minor news. Um, let's start with Missouri, just because they're the non-Big 12, and I just want to get them out of the way. This is kind of a make or break year for Eli Drinkwitz. Um, I just no questions asked. Just you go, you lose your bowl game first and foremost. You go, I think it was 6-6. I don't think they went 7-5. I think they went 6-6. Um, in the regular season, just another chronically average season for the Tigers, which is not something that I don't think they would have liked. Um, obviously they had those first couple years where they were in SEC championship contention, and were a really, really good football team. And then, of course, everything happened with Gary Pinkel. And then they kind of just searched for coaches. They had Barry Odom come in and do okay. And then he got fired because he had, again, that kind of chronically average level. And then you bring in Eli Drinkwitz, who had success at Appalachian State, and he's kind of much of the same. I mean, so this is kind of a make or break year for the Tigers. If you don't go, in my opinion, 8-4 or better, and I realize the Tigers have a tough schedule, but you have a ton of talent on that roster. Um, you know, Cook is not a bad quarterback. Um, you have Luther Burden there as well. You have a great running back room. You have a great defense. I mean, there's just no excuse for Eli Drinkwitz to, for lack of a better term, crap the bed again and have just another dud season, um, where you may or may not make a bowl game, And if they don't make a bowl game, he's out for sure. But if they do make a bowl game and they lose, I think he absolutely needs to be on the hot seat. Um, and even if they win a game, even if they win a bowl game, if they go 7-5 or 6-6 again, if I'm the Missouri athletic director, I'm looking at that contract, that big contract that he signed, and kind of I'm I'm almost going to cut my losses, because this is the guy that was supposed to revive Missouri football. This is a guy that was supposed to revive recruiting, which he has a little. Um, Luther Burden is one of the best wide receivers in the country. Um, but it's just not a good look when you're consistently going with an average record. Um, and I've seen predictions for Missouri as low as 3-9 and as high as 8-4. So they're a boomer bust team, in my opinion. And again, they have a tough schedule. In the SEC, there's really no easy wins unless you're a team that makes their own schedule, like Alabama or Georgia, where they can have an FCS opponent smack dab in the middle of the season when they're in mid-season form and just shellac them. Um, I digress. Uh, but it's still no excuse. I mean, you went to the SEC for a reason because you thought you could succeed there. Well, you did for a bit. Now it's time to put up or shut up. So it's time to put up, or it's see you later to Eli Drinkwitz, in my opinion. And his comments about the whole conference realignment thing, I understand where he's coming from, but it's just they're kind of hollow given his contract and how much he gets paid. So, I mean, my guy, you're also on a team that was one of the first to move in conference realignment. So, in modern conference realignment, at least. So, I really wouldn't be the pot calling the kettle black here. But for Missouri, I would say it's probably going to be another 7-5 year, honestly, or another 6-6 year. I just don't see them getting past opponents like Georgia, Alabama. I don't even see them getting past Arkansas. It'll be a close game, but I don't see them beating them. I mean, Arkansas looks really, really good this year. So I just don't see Missouri having a whole lot of success this year, and that may mean saying goodbye to Eli Drinkwitz. So. Moving on to Kansas State. Kansas State is, like I said in the last ScorchCast, kind of one or two in the Big 12. I mean, it's them and Texas, really. Um, and everybody else fighting for third through basically eighth. And, you know, Will Howard could have a banner year this year. But if he doesn't, I think a lot of Kansas State fans are going to be extremely disappointed. I think there's high expectations for this offense. Trayshawn Ward is going to be really, really good. Obviously, Cooper Beebe anchoring that offensive line. You got a solid receiving core. There's just no excuse for this offense to put up a dud, and I don't think they will. I mean, Colin Klein's a great offensive coordinator. So this offense is going to be something to be reckoned with. And given the defenses in the Big 12, again, anything less than a banner year for that offense is, in my opinion. I I fully expect Kansas State to be Big 12 title contenders, and honestly, if all goes well, they could be college football playoff contenders. I mean, truly, they could be. The Big 12 is very, very competitive this year. So I don't, unless they really hit those games perfectly and just dominate, I, eh, it's still a pretty small chance. But, if things go right for Kansas State, they could be in that conversation. So and the defense that they have is solid. I think it's one of the better ones in the Big 12. But you got to get past Texas first. You got to get past Oklahoma. And you can't take teams like Kansas or Texas Tech, or even, teams as small or the newcomers, like UCF, Cincinnati. You can't take those lightly. I mean, and I don't know if they even play. Do they even play UCF or Cincinnati? I forget. But we'll see. Honestly, uh, the Big 12, like I said, is going to be very, very competitive. But I think Kansas State has as good a chance, and honestly, a better chance than pretty much everyone except Texas to run away with the Big 12, or come away with the Big 12 title. So great expectations, and expectations that can be met for Kansas State. I predict them to go 11-1 this year. I think that's a healthy prediction. At worst, 8-4. I mean, and that's at worst, mind you. And that's if they really, really just don't do well this season. So again, high expectations for the Wildcats. For Kansas, you've got a lot of guys on the preseason watch award list. I mean, you've got Jalen Daniels, you've got Mike Nowitzki, um, you've got that running back room with Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw. They're both on the Doak Walker list. I mean, that's a two-headed beast that ran over everyone last year. And with the addition of Logan Brown, who is going to be just a stud on that offensive line. I mean, we've already heard from camp hearings. I'm a contributor for KU football for College Football Dogs. What I've heard about this offensive line is that they are twice as good as they were last year. I mean, this is going to be an offensive line that is going to push people around, and with that running back room, man, that's going to be dangerous. And Jalen Daniels is going to have time to throw. I know his health is put into question, but as long as he stays healthy with the wide receivers and tight ends that he has, I mean, yeah, there's no like Bolitnikoff contenders. There's no guys that could win the John Mackey per se. I think actually Mason Fairchild is a dark horse for the John Mackey. I think he's on the watch list, but I'm not positive. Um, I mean, this is an offense that can absolutely put, 40 plus points a game on you if you're not careful. So be on the lookout for this Kansas offense. They're going to be really, really good so long as everybody stays healthy. That's the big, big key for Kansas football right now is everybody just has to stay healthy. For their defense, I know a lot of people have called their defense the weakest link of this team. Um, I don't necessarily disagree. I think the offense is better than the defense. Um, the special teams I think has improved, but I think the special teams is still the weakest link. Given all the losses that you had at kicker, you've got an inexperienced punter in there that has shown to be pretty good in camp, but let's get him in a game setting first, and then we'll see exactly where we're at in terms of special teams. But and obviously, you have Don Snyder, who is one of the better special teams coaches in the country, um, leading that leading that group. So special teams is going to take a step up. I don't think they're better than the defense, though. That's secondary with Kenny Logan and Kobe Bryant. But think I don't think Kenny Logan is on the preseason watch list, but could easily be on the watch list if he has a good season for the Thorpe Award. Kobe Bryant is on the watch list, and he is a heck of a corner. He's an NFL draft prospect. I mean, he's going to be really pretty good, and just be on the lookout for that secondary. That linebacking group has depth and a lot of dudes that can lay the wood, but I think the big question is the defensive line for this KU football team. You guys they lost a bunch of seniors. I mean, they lost Lonnie Phelps, Sam Burt. Um, they lost a couple other guys too to either graduation or the NFL or transfer. And you brought in quite a few quite a few transfers that will help bolster that line, but there's still a lot of questions there. So I think looking at as far as like position groups, I think defensive line may be the weakest link for the Kansas Jayhawks. So we'll see what kind of pass rush they can get, and if they can get some pass rush, guys like Kobe Bryant and Kenny Logan can absolutely capitalize. So that's kind of my predictions for the uh, three local teams. As far as the preseason watch lists go, Walter Camp, Jalen Daniels is on that watch list. He's also on the Davey O'Brien watch list. So big expectations for Jalen Daniels again, so long as he stays healthy. Uh, Will Howard is also on the Davy O'Brien watch list of Kansas State. And there's no Missouri guys on any of these wish lists. And I'm honestly kind of surprised. I'm surprised Luther Burden didn't make it onto the Bolitnikoff list. It's kind of a shock. I didn't really think that, like, with the QB talent that Missouri has, I mean, yeah, he's not like the best guy in the entire world, but I mean, he's still serviceable and he can still get Luther Burden the ball. And Luther Burden has shown what he can do with the ball. So I'm kind of surprised he's not on the Blitnikoff list, but you got Nowitzki from KU on the Remington, Kobe Bryant on the Thorpe list, and then, of course, the dynamic duo of Aishaw and Neal on the Doak Walker list. And then Trayshawn Ward also made it onto the Doak Walker list from Kansas State. So big expectations from each of the three local teams. This is kind of the first time that all three local teams are looking to make some big noise and are expected to make some big noise. So, uh, big things coming for the college football season. 2 weeks away. I can't wait personally. I can't wait to get in some writings for the dogs as well as the burn. You'll be hearing a lot from me in regards to college football season. And of course, NFL football season. We'll be talking about Chiefs a little later. But stay tuned. It's going to be a great time. So. Alrighty, the Royals. They're looking better since the trade deadline. I think they did okay on the trade deadline. If you want to go check out that article, it's um, down in the website or down on the website, www.theburnkcsportstalk.com. So go check that out. Uh, they're looking better. There's still some rough spots. They did sweep the Mets, which was pretty cool. The Mets aren't that great this season either, but but they look like a serviceable baseball team now. They look like a team that's competing, and they look like a team that gives a darn. Finally, um, this is a group of very young guys that look like they want to be wearing a Royals uniform, which is a welcome sight to see. In terms of whether or not there's promise, I think there's plenty of it. Cole Reagans, the new addition from the trade deadline, looks like he could be an anchor. I know he didn't perform all that great last night, but there is still a learning curve. I mean, he's 25, I think, so he's got time. Just relax. I mean, baseball has a lot of games for a reason, uh, but I think there's a lot of promise. And as far as the trade line went, good but not great. Um, if you've been keeping up with Nicky Lopez, Nicky Lopez looks really, really good ever since being traded to the Braves. Nicky Lopez did not have a 5 RBI game until going to the Braves, and he had one yesterday against the Mets when the Braves put up 21 runs against the Mets. And woof, 21-3. That's a football score. um, but yeah, like I said, Mets aren't doing so hot this year either. But Nicky Lopez is. And we're excited for Nicky Lopez because he's an old friend. And I loved Nicky Lopez while he was here as a Royal. He was a great contact hitter. He was a good fielder and was a bright spot in terms of our young guys. And I wish him the best. As for the guys that are still here, Salvador Perez celebrated 12 years of being on the Royals the other night. Um, Good on him for being here for 12 years. We appreciate his presence, his veteran presence. This is probably going to be his last year as a Royal. Just being brutally honest here. He's either going to get traded or he's going to retire, in my opinion. Who knows? Maybe that won't happen, but we'll just have to see. I mean, it's looking like one of those two things is going to happen, which is fine because Freddie Fermin has looked decent. MJ Melendez has also looked pretty good. There's guys on this Royals team that can be good catchers in place of Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez is not by any stretch of the imagination what he was, um, but he's still been above average. He's just outside of his prime now, and seems like he's on his way out. Which is again is okay because we're getting youth in here and we're getting guys that can be molded by this new management that we've got coming in with Matt Cotuaro and company. Um, with JJ Piccolo, he did say that what he's looking for is ceiling over MLB readiness when he looks at trades and when he looks at picking up guys. Uh, you know, it's tough to look at JJ Piccolo's method and call it a good method because it's not offering immediate results. But I think we will legitimately see some results in the future. I think, Quatraro has not had time to develop his team yet, make this team his team. And I think now that he has, after the trade deadline, at least a little bit, I think there is some promise there. Now, the Royals tend to bookend their seasons with good performances in the it's like good performance, good performance. That's kind of how Royal seasons go. I mean, that's just how it's been for years and years, sans the 14 and 15 season. Um, and it doesn't feel like that kind of season. It feels like a guy that is trying to save this team and giving them a positive outlook for when they start next season, which is kind of what the Royals should be looking at right now. I mean, there's next to zero chance they make the playoffs. Um, there's next to zero chance that you know you're going to pick up some marquee free agents or anything like that. So focus on the guys you have and focus on next year. Yeah, next year may not be optimal either, but the Royals are playing the long game, and I think that's what JJ Piccolo recognizes. He's not Dayton Moore. He's not gonna go out and try and pick some washed up dudes off the street and have them try and come back to their prime somehow. That's just not possible. So when looking at ceiling and when looking at how the draft and the trade deadline went, I think that's exactly what JJ Piccolo's plan is, and I think that's what he's sticking to, and I respect it. I have said some things about JJ Piccolo in the past that I don't necessarily regret as of yet. As of yet. But I could in the future. Please make me regret those things that I've said about you, JJ. Thanks. All right, let's talk about some Chiefs. The Chiefs had their first preseason game today. It ended in an interesting manner. um, let's just say Chris Olodokun may not be on the Chiefs for very much longer. Um, depending on how they feel about that last little play there. Boy, howdy. But they lost against the Saints. They had the game won. They did not execute because it was the fourth stringers. Um, it's preseason. As far as the overanalyzing of this whole thing goes, again, it's preseason, but I thought the defense really the first team defense really missed Chris Jones. I think it kind of made a case for them extending him. Um, Obviously, he's probably not going to hold out the regular season. Signs point to them that not happening. But you know, he's got this last year on his contract, and then it really matters whether the Chiefs re-sign him or not. Um, they could let him walk. Who knows? But judging by how those first couple of possessions went with that first team defense, they kind of need Chris Jones on that interior line. It just didn't look good, and having to blitz linebackers really exposed that middle area of the field to where teams like the Saints that thrive on that with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, you know, will exploit you for it. And there's a lot of teams in the AFC West that will exploit that. Um, the Chargers will, the Broncos, if they, end up performing this year. Man, they've been a circus so far. It's great. But even the Raiders will exploit that kind of thing. I mean, it's just simple football. When you blitz the linebackers, you are leaving that middle area of the field completely exposed in coverage. You should at least have one linebacker in coverage, but uh, Chris Jones accounts for at least one and a half linebackers, so he makes a ton of difference. And like I said in previous articles and previous podcasts, he is the defensive centerpiece. And not signing him just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially now that we've seen the results of that. Again, it's preseason, so things could improve, but we were definitely missing Chris Jones. I was also kind of hoping that Patrick Mahomes would be getting in work with his younger wide receivers, and not Blaine Gabbert or Shane Buechele. They both looked good. Don't get me wrong. Richie James looked very, very good, and Justin Ross is as advertised by the looks of it. So that's good, but let's get Patrick Mahomes throwing them the football. Um, you have Marquez Valdez Scantling out there. You got Sky Moore. You got Justin Watson. But you gotta have, Rashee Rice. You gotta have, and Rashee Rice looked really good too. Uh, you gotta have Rashee Rice, Richie James, Justin Ross. These guys having reps with the first team so you can figure out who exactly is going to be that wide receiver core. Because that's still not decided yet. And that's probably the biggest question for the Chiefs. So I would have liked to have seen more of a rotation with the wide receivers. Just the guys that are kind of on the cusp of those first team reps, get them in with the first team and kind of have that rotation going. But other than that, I thought it went pretty well. Kind of a boring game, not much to gauge upon. There were a couple guys that kind of stood out that looked pretty good. The Khalif Halasi kid can get up there and had a really, really athletic play on the ball for that interception. I think he has a strong case to make the 53. I hope he does. Um, but we'll just have to see. Um, I'm sorry, my mom's fantasy league football draft is starting in 2 minutes, so I'm trying to talk on the fly here. Um, but as far as preseason thoughts go, that's kind of all I have. In all honesty, um, we'll see as we go. Nothing really new in terms of the Jones holdout or in terms of players that I'm watching. But we'll finish it off by going to a poll here and kind of seeing how you guys feel. Who will be the breakout star for the Chiefs? So let's have a look, shall we? So it looks like the wide receivers are taking the poll. Mind you, I released this poll before the first preseason game, so I might honestly revisit it here in the next couple of weeks, probably before the regular season game, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think the wide receiver room looks good, and I think the Chiefs will be just fine. Yeah, we saw a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire today, which was not something that I thought I would say today. But Isaiah Pacheco should be good to go week one. Uh, I'm hoping that Clyde, gets good reps. This may have just been a showcase to see if anybody's wanting Clyde for trading or something like that. Who knows? But again, first game of the preseason. Don't think much of it. We'll see how the next couple games go. Yeah. Okay, we're doing this in the middle of my mom's fantasy football draft. So, we're going to go through this minor news here. Kansas City Current are in the League Cup semifinals. They will be playing. Let me check real quick. Sorry, I'm not more prepared. I'm sorry, guys. KC Current League Cup. All right, they are playing. Who are they playing? Well, they beat Racing Louisville to make it to here, and they did not have that great of a record against Racing Louisville, which is pretty good. Um, they are going to be playing. I have no idea. It doesn't even say. I'm sorry, everyone. I thought I would know who they would be playing. But it doesn't say. I will get that information from my girlfriend and keep you all updated. Maybe she'll know. Well, actually, maybe Fox will know. Let me check. Hold on. Again, I apologize for not being more prepared. There's not a whole lot of news on women's soccer, though, unfortunately. Um, no, it's not OL Rain. Never mind. Um, yeah, we'll update you as we go. But the Blues start their regular season in the fall. Um, August 26th against Metro at Metro, which is Minneapolis's team. Uh, Blues are looking real good. They got a lot of international talent this year. Got a lot of guys that can really play well and play together. Got great coaching and Jamie Devers and Derek Leader. Just overall, and Scott Cram, of course, being the head coach. Shout out to Scott Cram, Cram Ding Dong, as we call him. Um, just a very optimistic look for the Kansas City Blues this year. After losing Coach Pearson last year, which was super unfortunate circumstances, it's looking good for the Blues this year. Got plenty of talent, got a very good group of forwards, got a very good chance to really do some damage here in the Midwest Conference. So let's look forward to that. Got a great back line too, and Kyle Renner, Ty Lewis, out there as well again. After spending some time in Houston, he'll be a great asset. So really looking forward to this upcoming season. The Blues are also in D2 now. Their D3 is in D2. So that's also something to look forward to. And just, yeah, going to be a great season. So, um, got one more piece of news for you. The second annual Burn KC Fantasy Football League. As I work on my mom's Fantasy Football League right now, I just drafted Lamar Jackson. So, pretty good pick there, I must say. Sorry. But the Blues, yeah, the Burn. KC Football Fantasy Football League is going to be starting back up here in the next couple of days. It's going to be a $5 entry per player, and whoever wins gets the pot. Shout out to the Merrigan brothers who competed, and Clayton ended up winning it all last year. Shout out to them. Hopefully, I can see you guys again this coming year. I will send you all the link because I know you're not friends with me on Facebook, but I will send you all the link. And yeah, I'm hoping for a really good turnout. Last year we had 10 teams, so a pretty good league all around. That's honestly a perfect size league. But 10 to 12 is a perfect size league. I think we had eight. We had eight. Yeah. So a little smaller than some leagues, but if we can get it to 10, this next year, I will be super satisfied. So be on the lookout. Burn KC Football League is going to be started. Fantasy Football League is going to start back. Imagine if I ran my own football league. That'd be great. That'd be so fun. Um, but fantasy football is starting back up. Um, I'm thinking about adding potentially a charity element to it too. So be on the lookout for that in the next week. We will be having our draft. Pretty quick turnaround, probably around the 20th, I would say. So be on the lookout for invites. Please join if you have the ability to. And that is pretty much our show. So thank you very much for joining me. This has been the Burn Casey signing off. Have a great night, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks.